Hey, I'm super early today. I didn't mean to be this early, but glad you're here. Say hi if you want in the chat. We're really not starting for another 4 minutes. Wow, lots of people here early. Hi, everybody. Good to see you. It's about 4 minutes until, and I'm really not starting until 2 o'clock, but please feel free to hang out. Say hi in the chat if you'd like, or come back later. Outline. I need to get like a play at the beginning that says please stand by, or I don't know, like, yeah, something. Anyway, still have 2 minutes, and we are on success markers here. Still got 2 minutes. It's a long 2 minutes. You don't want to hear me sing, do you? I don't think you want to hear me sing. Let's see. Let's get the right angle here. I think that works. How does that look? Someone's going to find the live version of this, and you're going to be like, what is she doing? All right, 1 more minute. One of these days, I'm going to learn how to not. What just happened? Start this thing early. I'm also going to learn how to manage my script. I just lost, and it's 2 o'clock. Well, that doesn't work because I'll be looking like I'm looking to the side. Okay, hello. Welcome to another Wednesday. I am Coach Chris Quintana. I am a certified high performance coach, a world champion martial artist, and a brain injury survivor, kind of all around nerd. And this is my 20 minutes every week where I think out loud with you, if you're hanging, about some of the things that have been coming up for me and my clients and people that I know in the business world, and share where we're headed and what we're talking about, what we've been thinking about. So, yeah, this month, and we've been talking about clarity, and we're continuing that with getting clarity about why we succeed, because most high-performing leaders can't accurately explain why their best seasons worked. And that's not criticism. It's just, I'm saying that as like pattern recognition. So if I asked you why your strongest quarter worked, the one where everything clicked, you'd probably say something like, I was disciplined, I was focused, I just executed, or maybe I worked harder. And none of those answers are wrong, but they're all kind of incomplete. They're all surface level explanations for something that was happening on a much deeper level. And when you build your next level on incomplete data, the expansion into that next level will start to feel heavier than it needs to. And I think the trap is people start assuming that if you just replicate the effort from the last time you were successful, you'll replicate the results. It doesn't always work that way. And that's what I'm thinking about today in our thinking out loud, because I see this pattern constantly. Leaders who are guessing at their own success patterns. And when you guess, you default to effort. And you assume the difference was willpower or discipline or execution. And that's where things start to distort. Let me tell you about someone that I worked with recently. When I worked with her, she had just had her strongest revenue quarter ever. And when I asked her what made it work, she didn't hesitate. Discipline. That's what she said. I tightened things up. I executed better. And that's what she believed. And I've noticed something about high performers. They're really good at crediting discipline. It's like a default explanation. But when we slowed it down and actually mapped that quarter, when we looked at what was actually true during those 3 months, something interesting showed up. She had weekly collaborative thinking time, not meetings, thinking time. Space where she processed ideas out loud with someone sharp, someone who could challenge her and didn't have their own agenda. So she had that time. She wasn't onboarding anyone new during that quarter. So her cognitive load was clean. She wasn't teaching, training, managing someone's first 90 days. She also had two protected deep work blocks every week, non-negotiable, on her calendar, treated like client appointments. She was sleeping consistently, not perfectly, but consistently. Same bedtime, same wake time most days, because no one's perfect. And there also wasn't like a personal crisis running in the background. No family emergency, no health scare, no major life disruption. So now I want you to notice something. None of that sounds dramatic. None of it sounds like hustle or grind or some big breakthrough strategy. But those were the conditions that allowed her to think sharply. Those were the conditions that made the discipline that she was able to identify even possible. And here's another thing I've noticed. When something works, you remember the outcome. The revenue number, the deal that closed, the promotion you got, the goal you hit, but you forget the ecosystem that supported it. You forget what was in place, what was not demanding your attention, what rhythms were protecting your energy. And then when something doesn't work, you blame effort, not design. And you think, well, I just need to work harder, be more disciplined, push through. That's not always the issue. That's the trap. So what happened next was this person I was talking about. Well, the next quarter, she leveled up. She had her best quarter ever. She leveled up, hired new team members, good people she was excited about. She took on more visibility, speaking opportunities, podcast interviews, more meetings, more requests for her time, more responsibility. And almost immediately, those deep work blocks disappeared. Not intentionally. She didn't decide to remove them. They just sort of evaporated. Because there was more important work to do. There were people to onboard. There were fires to put out and opportunities that felt urgent. That collaborative thinking time got replaced with status updates. Her sleep shortened slightly, not by much, just 15, 20 minutes here and there, but it started to add up. And her calendar filled. and her revenue dipped. Not catastrophically, but noticeably. Her energy dipped too. And all of that led to her confidence starting to waver. And her response, I just need to tighten back up, get more disciplined. Yeah, I've been there. I think we've all been there. The discipline wasn't the missing variable. The conditions had changed. And this is something I see happening when high performers expand without understanding what actually supports their success. You compensate instead of recalibrating. And here's what compensating looks like in practice. You take on more because that's what expansion looks like, right? More responsibility, more output, more visibility, more. Someone needs to handle the new client, you do it. Someone needs to make that final call, you do it. Someone needs to step up, you do it. Because you're capable. And because no one else is going to help you, is going to execute it the way that you would. You tighten control because things feel less stable when you're expanding, right? We're growing. Remember little kids, growing pains? When you're expanding and growing, things feel a little less stable. So you check in more, you review more, you insert yourself into decisions that used to happen without you, not because you don't trust your team, but because the stakes feel higher now. And then you override instinct because you don't have time to sit with a decision anymore. Where you used to be able to feel into whether something was the right move, now you're just trying to keep up. And you remove support because you tell yourself, I can handle it. I've done harder things than this. Or you tell yourself, I have to handle it. I'm not supposed to have help. I'm the boss now. And maybe you stop investing in that thinking partnership because it feels like a luxury now. Or you cancel that coach because you just can't justify the expense when revenue is down. Or you tell yourself you don't need the recovery time that you used to protect. And the thing is, you can handle it. High capacity people can carry a lot. That's not the question. The question is, should you? Just because you can carry it doesn't mean the design is right. But here's what happens long term when you do that. Success becomes something you maintain instead of something you inhabit. It starts to feel like everything together instead of leading from a place of clarity. And it feels heavier than it used to, more draining, more exhausting. Even when the metrics look good, you're still getting results. The cost feels higher. The internal effort required to I can talk. The internal effort required to produce the same level of output has increased, and you're not sure why. So that's one pattern that I see. Leaders who forget what supported their success and default to effort when expansion gets hard. But interestingly, there's another pattern that creates the same problem. And it might even be more subtle. I see it especially with leaders who had to downregulate during a hard season. And I was talking about this for the last couple of weeks, right? So maybe there was burnout a few weeks ago, the kind where you hit a wall and you had to completely restructure how you worked. Or maybe you had a family situation that required all of your attention, a parent who needed care, a child going through something difficult, a relationship that demanded everything you had. Maybe a business contraction where you had to shrink to survive, lay people off, cut expenses, scale back to the essentials. Maybe something internal shifted, a health issue that forced you to slow down, a mental health season that required you to protect your capacity carefully, something forced you to pull back. And you adjusted, and that was good. You reduced your commitments. You protected your energy fiercely. You narrowed your focus to what was absolutely essential. And that was the right call. That was wisdom. That adjustment probably saved you. But here's what I see all the time. Capacity recovers, but identity doesn't update. Let me say that again, because that is subtle. Capacity recovers, but identity doesn't update. Your body heals, your energy returns, your capacity expands back to where it was or even beyond. But you are still structuring your life as if you're operating at limited bandwidth, even though you're not anymore. You're still limiting exposure, still saying no to things that would actually serve you now, things that would expand your influence, your impact, your network. Still planning defensively, building your calendar like you're one bad week away from collapse, leaving huge buffers, avoiding anything that might create pressure. Still assuming exhaustion like it's a permanent condition you have to manage around, like you can't trust your energy to hold. Still designing from old constraints that aren't accurate anymore. And believe me, I understand this. And I want to be really clear here. I'm not saying you should ignore your limits. It took me 8 years to recover from my last concussion. I don't even know if I'm 100% recovered. So I've seen that. I'm not saying you should push past what your body can handle. I'm saying your limits may have shifted. And if you don't update your understanding of what you're actually capable of now, you'll keep living inside a container that is too small for who you've become. Your nervous system may have recalibrated. Your body may have healed. Your capacity may have returned. But your operating assumptions haven't caught up yet. So now you're expanding. You're taking on a bigger role, more responsibility, a new level of leadership. But you're doing it inside this structure that was built for survival, a structure that was designed and worked to protect you when you were fragile. I respect that so much. I appreciate that. I hope you do too. You need to honor that. But if you're not fragile anymore, of course that feels tight. Of course it feels like you're forcing growth instead of growing into something that fits. So there's these two different patterns that create the same result. One, you expand and forget what supported your success. You remove the conditions that made you effective and then blame effort when things get harder. On the other hand, two, you protect yourself during a hard season wisely. Then you keep living inside those protections even after you recovered. Different origins, same outcome. You're building your next level on incomplete data. Either you're missing what actually worked before, or you're operating from limits that just aren't true anymore. And in both cases, expansion feels heavier than it needs to. So here's what I want to offer today. You don't need more discipline. You need updated self-accuracy. That's a weird term. Self-accuracy. I think I like it. I'll keep it. Sometimes I say things and I don't know where it comes from. I don't keep that one. You need updated self-accuracy. Your track record is trying to tell you something, and you keep overriding it. You keep assuming that effort is the variable, that if you just push harder, stay more focused, execute better, it'll work. Of course you're assuming that. That's what all of our culture has been telling us for God knows how long. But what if the issue isn't effort? What if the issue is you're building your next level on incomplete data about what actually made your best seasons work? So instead of asking, how do I work harder? Try asking something different. When was the last season that felt both effective and sustainable? Not just productive, sustainable for the long term. Where you were doing good work, hitting goals, making progress, and it didn't feel like it was costing you everything else. When you could end the day and still have energy for the people you love. When you could take a weekend and not spend the whole time recovering. When success and well-being were not at odds with each other. What was true about the conditions in that season? And I mean really true. Not what you think should have mattered. What actually did? What support existed? Who was around you? What conversations were you having regularly? Were you meeting with a peer group? Did you have a thinking partner? Did you have a coach? Was there someone you could process decisions with before they became final? What rhythms were present? What was protecting your time, your energy, your thinking? Did you have boundaries around your calendar? Did you batch certain kinds of work? Did you have rituals that created transitions between different parts of your day? What did you stop doing when you expanded? This is where it gets interesting. What disappeared when you leveled up? Did you used to protect Fridays for planning and strategic thinking, and now they're just meeting overflow? Did you used to move your body every morning, go for a walk, hit the gym, and now you skip it because there's no time? Did you used to have white space in your calendar? Remember that? White space in your calendar. Room to think, room to breathe. And now it's just back to back to back to back to back all day. Here's a question that might sting a little. Where are you pretending something doesn't matter when it clearly does? Where are you telling yourself, oh, I don't need that anymore. That was just a luxury. I can't justify it now. When actually it wasn't a luxury, it was part of the design that made you effective. It was part of what allowed you to think clearly, lead well, and make good decisions. This is not about creating the past. I'm not saying you need to go back to exactly how things were 3, 4, 8 years ago. Your life has changed. Your business has changed, I hope. Your responsibilities have changed. But it's about recognizing the patterns that actually allow you to operate at your best. The conditions, the support, the rhythms, the space. Because if you don't know what those are, if you don't know what conditions support your best thinking, your clearest decision making, your most sustainable output, then expansion will always feel heavier than it needs to. You'll keep compensating instead of designing. You'll keep assuming the answer is more effort, more discipline, more pushing through. You'll keep attributing your success to willpower when it was actually about design. And you'll keep being surprised when things that used to work stop working. So if you're stepping into a bigger role or season right now, if you're taking on more responsibility, more visibility, more leadership, if things are technically working, the numbers look good, you're hitting your goals, but it feels tighter and heavier and more draining than it used to, if you're maintaining success but not inhabiting it, the issue probably isn't discipline. It's miscalibration, misalignment. If you're building your next level on incomplete data about what actually made your best season work, that creates friction. And that friction doesn't need to be there. It makes expansion feel like effort when it could feel like growth. If you're stepping into a bigger role or season and things are technically working, but feeling tighter, heavier, more draining than they used to, and if you want a precise look at where your current design is misaligned with how you actually succeed, that's what we do inside my alignment call. Not to add more effort, but to restore accuracy. Because you don't need to push harder. You just need to stop guessing. I'll see you next week.